Humans love to fight. We fight to survive, and we fight for entertainment. We love to watch each other fight. UFC, boxing, the Coliseum, World Star Hip Hop.
World Star!
It's visceral. It's primal. It's usually an opportunity to engage in gambling.
Scrape that motherfucker!
I mean, any chance to observe a blood sport and bet a bunch of money on who will potentially win has piqued human interest for centuries, so...
It doesn't need to be man versus man. It could be man versus tiger, man versus bear, man versus dog. Furthermore, man doesn't even need to be involved. I'm sure we're all too familiar with the PETA nightmare that is cockfighting, or the Michael Vick side hustle known as dogfighting.
But for a select few, the aforementioned just doesn't seem to hit right. They crave a brawl of the creepy-crawly variety.
Bug fights.
Bug fighting dates all the way back to the late 600s during the Tang Dynasty in China, but became mainstream around the 12th century in China during the Song Dynasty, where they would recreationally fight crickets. Crickets were originally kept as musical pets, for their beautiful chirping, and were pretty common gifts, a lot of times kept in these custom elegant boxes. The crickets were fed strict specific diets of rice, lotus seeds, mosquitoes, and secret herbal medicines, which I'm assuming is like the ancient Chinese version of Tren. By the way, I'm assuming that there is no blood testing in the sport, so I'm going to be the first cricket fighter on gear, and I'm going to make sure I put pre-workout in my cricket's water, so good luck.
The matches were mostly held indoors in these oval or tube-shaped arenas known as dojas. The doja is traditionally formed out of clay, but in modern times, just a plastic dish will do.
The cricket handlers would place the crickets on opposite sides of the doja and would poke at them with these ticklers made out of rat whiskers or reeds. This was kind of to get them pissed off. Some fighters would also have their crickets engage in intercourse beforehand because they believed that it would make the crickets kind of territorial, like they would, protect their cricket consort, for lack of a better word. By the way, some fighters would keep female crickets that literally just existed to be like a cricket escort for their male fighters, which is insane. The tournaments are usually best 3 out of 5, and the winner is determined if one of the crickets actively flees, if, one of the crickets dies, or if the winner cricket goes and spreads his wings. I guess that's a way for them to show, I'm the alpha, I won, you suck, By the way, there are referees for this sport. I don't know how you would, train to become a cricket fighting referee or how much they make, but I'm assuming it's a very rewarding job.
Modern-day cricket fighting, for the most part, is intended to be non-lethal, with most of the crickets living to fight countless rounds. Obviously, deaths do happen, unfortunately, oftentimes beheadings. But if they do survive, they usually continue through the rungs and try to become what is known as a general, which is the top dog of cricket fighting. I don't know, who the fuck is a big fighter? Pretend it's whenever Mike Tyson was relevant. The Mike Tyson of cricket fighting.
This is a nearly $60 million industry with underground fights going, pretty much year-round, and some pretty big annual ones going on in the autumn in a couple different places in China. This is legal. The gambling is illegal, but, whatever.
Beetle wrestling is just what the name suggests, pitting large beetles against each other in a ring. The sport is mostly popular in Japan and was cited by Satoshi Tajiri, don't know if I'm saying that right, as one of the main inspirations for Pokemon. So, it's kind of cool. The most common beetle used in this sport is the Japanese rhinoceros beetle. It has pretty impressive lifting strength and is, totally armored, a rock-hard bod. It also obviously has that rhino horn, which is great for throwing its opponents. The standard Japanese beetle wrestling match has the same rules as a normal sumo wrestling match. Essentially, if one person leaves the ring, whether they, it's a beetle, so maybe they'll walk out or fly out, or if they get pushed out, then they lose. There's a handful of beetle-related competitions that also don't involve direct combat, such as, which one is the fastest, or who can climb the highest in an allotted amount of time, such as in the National Rhinoceros Beetle Sumo Tournament, which happens every year in Japan. In these competitions, the beetle is very rarely harmed. These beetles are fucking rock hard. It's like two bricks going at each other. So this is a non-lethal sport, thank God. Beetle training usually involves stamina and endurance tests. I'm assuming they, I don't know, just keep getting them to walk somewhere, tie a rock on them and let them fly. I tried to look up training and I couldn't find any videos. But if you do know, let me know, because I am very curious how I can get a jacked beetle. Oh, actually, I found this dude Shinyuasa who said that the way that he trained his beetle is by putting it in the ring with smaller beetles that he knew it would defeat, so that beetle got in the habit of, winning. It got in its head, kind of sent that beetle on an ego trip. This practice is currently illegal in Japan, but it's pretty common. The main reason it's illegal is because there's a lot of betting that goes on around it. Obviously, if I'm going to watch a beetle fight, I'm going to put some money on it. Most of this occurs in the Okinawa prefecture, and one thing I found that's actually really funny is there was an 8-year-old kid named Tesho Suzuki, I think his name was, and he actually caught a beetle from his backyard and entered it in a competition and won, and they gave him a bunch of fucking beef and plums and stuff, which if I was an 8-year-old and that happened to me, that would change my life, and I would probably become so addicted to beetle fighting I would drop out of school right there. So probably a good thing that it didn't happen to me. Spider fighting, also known as a spider derby. It's a bit different than the previous entries, mostly due to the fact that it is incredibly fast-paced. Spiders are a little bit more agile than crickets or beetles are. Yeah! Also, these fights are generally lethal. Spiders are also, dicks. If they're not lethal, they often result in loss of limbs. And interestingly enough, most of these fights are fought by females. Cricket and beetle fighting, usually the male cricket and the male beetle is a little bit larger and tends to be a bit more territorial. In the case of these spiders, they generally use females. Spider fighting is most popular in the Philippines. It does happen in Japan, Singapore, and Malaysia, and a couple other places, obviously. Mostly going to focus on the Philippines because that's where it's most popular. Spider fighting is actually most popular among children. There is higher level competitions that I'll speak about in a little bit. So usually just kids catching spiders and making them duke it out, The most common spider used in this fighting is the orb weaver. People go out and catch these orb weavers in trees or bushes, and then they cram them into literal matchboxes. So that's a little home for them, which is kind of cool. They call matchboxes stables in the sport, similar to horse stables. There is, like I said, there is some higher level stuff. There's some professional spider fighters who actually have entire terrariums for their spiders. I don't know how to pronounce this, but I'm going to put the word for these terrariums on the screen. And they only use the matchboxes to transport spiders. Obviously, spiders don't live super long if you just keep them in a matchbox. But again, most of the sport is being fought by kids. So, cruel, but, I'm not surprised. These fights are insane compared to most beetle and cricket fights. Beetle and cricket fights, it's just kind of whereas these are spiders just ripping the shit out of each other. The spiders are incredibly aggressive. Basically what they usually do is they put both spiders on a single piece of coconut leaf or bamboo or a stick, and they put them on opposite sides, similar to a cricket or a beetle fight. And they jab at them, they get them going, and then these spiders, they crash in the middle. The lethal matches, they go until one spider is bitten, because they become paralyzed, and then the other spider wraps them up, which is really cool about these orb weavers, that they don't just kill their opponent, they then wrap it up in this big ball into this orb. They weave them into an orb, which is actually really sick. Into this nice silk bedding. They tuck them really, really tight into this nice silk bed. Non-lethal fights, they have kind of varying rules. It usually ends with one spider actively fleeing, or if one, drops off the stick. Being that spiders are pretty aggressive, these non-lethal matches require a really close eye that the referee kind of has to determine, all right, this dude is fucked. Let's get him out of there. You know what I mean? Spider fighting is not as large of an industry as, say, cricket fighting, but it is very lucrative for children, with a lot of small-scale matches fetching around $2 USD to the winner, which is, I'll put the conversion rate right here. Apparently, spider fighting is so popular among kids that it has been banned, specifically because teachers believe that kids are blowing off homework and shit like that and aren't going to class, specifically because they're training and fighting spiders, which is insane. I mean, if you ask me what was more important, a bachelor's degree in the arts or a spider I've groomed into being a war machine that fetches me $2 a head, I would pick the spider every time. There are some larger derbies that are obviously adult dominated that will sometimes have bets up to $1,000. Again, this isn't as common, but it does happen. Spider fighting in the Philippines, it's not considered illegal, the actual fighting. The gambling on it, similar to Beetle and cricket, is illegal. Also, real quick, I should mention that in Japan, there is a little bit of spider fighting, and they use the Argiope spider, and the fight is called Kumokasen, and it's fought, again, tournament style. Also, this is really funny. Spider fighting also has a little bit of a culture in Florida prisons, where inmates will catch spiders, out in the yard, or, I mean, it's Florida, so underneath your fucking bed or under your pillowcase, in your ears, and then they'll just get those spiders to fight. They'll keep those spiders as pets and kind of train them. Funny enough, or sadly enough, in 2002, a fight broke out between 3 inmates after a fighting spider was stolen, resulting in one person receiving life-threatening skull injuries, and I'm pretty sure 2 people actually got sentenced for just fucking people up over spiders, which is, as you should. There's about 1 billion different styles of bug fighting. I'm not going to be going over today. Obviously, if you piss anything off enough, you can make it fight. Just don't have enough time. I don't want this video to be super long, so I'm going to close out here just kind of talking about a couple fun things. I guess. Things that I found while, researching all this. First off, I know that I said I didn't know how they trained these insects, but I just, while editing this, found this guy on Reddit said that his dad watched them train in Okinawa by tying little stones to the beetles. And I'm pretty sure I saw someone on TikTok do that before. So if I can find that, I'll put that in the video. I also found that there is a popular card series that also has like a game and a manga called Mushi King, and it's all about people fighting beetles. I'd never even heard of that. It sounds sick, so I'm going to look into that. There's also, the main reason I made this video is because I stumbled upon that series called, I think it's just called Japanese Bug Fights, which is like a 30-part series. It's all online, as well as I'm pretty sure they sell DVDs where they just like pit a bunch of bugs against each other. But I don't know if I agree with this series specifically. It was the one that I saw first, and it shocked me the most, and I was like, I need to look into this. But they do kind of unethical things where they'll have like totally unbalanced fights going on. They'll put like a death hornet in with a cockroach or something. It's insane. It's basically like a bug snuff film at that point. Also, I will say, because I did watch a lot of them, I'm sorry, there's this one thing called the raspy cricket, which I'd never seen in person before, but holy shit, that thing is like the pit bull of bugs. It destroys everything, and I can almost guarantee if you saw it in person, it could probably fuck you up. Give it like 2 months of training, and it could fuck up a full-grown man. Back in 2018, there was actually a huge underground cricket fighting bust, with 2 of the organizers actually being arrested, which is I mean, could you imagine calling your mom from from jail, being like, "Ma, you gotta come pick me up. They got me. I was fighting bugs again. I'm sorry. I can't help it. I'm only human." And apparently at this specific tournament, over $140,000 was wagered in total, which is insane. And there was one dude there named, now I apologize if I pronounce this wrong, Manjigal, maybe? And he maintained a stable of over 70 fighters, which he labeled the Little Gladiators, which is dope. There's also a ton of YouTube channels that pop up almost every day dedicated to this. I see, just by searching like bug fights or any specific type of bug and the word fight, it'll come up hundreds of different videos of people pitting, these bugs against each other, usually in terrariums or something like that. So yeah, I mean, I hope this was interesting. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter who or what is fighting. It doesn't even really matter who wins. As long as you get to throw some money at it, it's going to be a good time. If anyone in New York knows of any underground non-lethal cricket fights, please let me know. And also, DraftKings, please add bug fights. Thank you.